In a pizza restaurant in 1990, two men sketched a car on a tablecloth. That napkin drawing would become the Ginetta G33, a lightweight roadster packing a Rover 3.9-liter V8 into a fiberglass body weighing just 874 kilograms. The formula was wonderfully simple. Take the pretty G27 that Ginetta had been building with a 4-cylinder Ford Pinto engine and squeeze in 8 cylinders of British muscle. The results were explosive. With 200 horsepower propelling less than 1,926 pounds, the G33 could hit 60 miles per hour in just 5 seconds and reach 145 miles per hour, or 233 kilometers per hour. These were supercar numbers from a car that cost a fraction of the competition. When BBC Top Gear's Tiff Needle tested the prototype at the 1990 Motor Show, his enthusiastic review helped generate a flood of orders. By June 1991, Autocar and Motor Magazine put the G33 on their front cover, and the waiting list grew longer. But success came with a curse. The car entered production before Mark Wacklett, one of its creators, felt it was ready. Ginetta admitted this themselves. The chassis needed bracing modifications. Spring rates required adjustment. Cars were being revised even as they rolled out the door. Still, customers loved what they were getting. Former TVR engineer Noel Palmer had helped create something special, a proper British roadster with independent double wishbone suspension, front and rear, Ford Sierra Cosworth brakes and differential, and that glorious V8 soundtrack. Then 1992 arrived like a wrecking ball. Britain struggled to maintain the pound sterling in the European exchange rate mechanism. Interest rates hit 15%. Ginetta's bankers at Barclays had denominated the company's loans in Japanese yen. Overnight, the debt exploded. The receiver was called in that autumn. Production stopped at approximately 96 cars, just short of the 100 needed for racing homologation. Here's the tragedy. The G33 had everything going for it. Positive press coverage, a full order book, performance that embarrassed cars costing £100,000 or more. Racing homologation that would let it compete in production car events. Dealers willing to invest their own money to keep the company alive. But none of it mattered. Currency speculation and banking decisions destroyed what media attention and customer enthusiasm had built. A consortium of dealers eventually rescued Ginetta, and production limped along until early 1994. Some cars were even modified by McDonald Racing into the Vitis variant, with over 300 horsepower and additional chassis bracing. Today, Ginetta survives and continues building sports cars, proving the company had genuine merit. But the G33 remains a painful reminder of how external forces can kill a good car. It deserved to establish Ginetta as a serious player in the 1990s roadster market. Instead, it became a footnote, remembered mainly by the lucky few who own the surviving examples, not killed by poor engineering or lack of demand, but by circumstances completely beyond anyone's control. In a pizza restaurant, in 1990, two men sketched a car on a tablecloth. Walk past a 1960s TVR Vixen, and you'll do a double take. There's nothing else quite like it. The tail section is literally chopped off right behind the rear window, a radical design TVR called the Manx tail, named after the tailless cats from the Isle of Man. It's aggressive, distinctive, and unmistakably British. Yet while TVR became famous decades later for outrageous V8 monsters like the Griffith and Chimera, the humble 4-cylinder Vixen remains largely forgotten outside enthusiast circles. The Vixen launched at the British Motor Show in October 1967, replacing the MGB-engined TVR Grantura 1800S. Series 1 cars used a Ford Kent 1599 cubic centimeter engine producing 88 brake horsepower, the same specification found in the Ford Cortina GT. It sounds modest until you consider the weight, just 738 kilograms for the Series 2. That gave the Vixen a power-to-weight ratio that embarrassed the heavier MGB, despite using a smaller engine. TVR hand-built each Vixen in their Blackpool factory, a seaside resort town not exactly known for car manufacturing. The fiberglass body sat atop a tubular steel space frame with Ford components throughout for reliability and easy parts sourcing. Series 2 cars, which became the most popular variant with 438 units built, featured a longer 90-inch wheelbase that addressed complaints about cramped entry and exit. The body was bolted rather than bonded to the chassis, making repairs easier. Twin intake ducts at the front corners replaced the earlier central bulge on the hood. By Series 3 in 1970, the Vixen had moved to TVR's new Bristol Avenue factory. Power increased to 92 brake horsepower, matching the Ford Capri specification. Top speed reached 114 miles per hour, or 183 kilometers per hour. Cast alloy wheels became standard equipment. The car gained distinctive Aeroflow grills behind the front wheels, borrowed creatively from Ford Zodiac Mark IV-C pillars. This clever parts bin engineering kept costs down while adding visual interest. The Vixen 2500 variant, fitted with a Triumph 2.5-liter six-cylinder engine producing 106 brake horsepower, actually outsold the standard four-cylinder car, with 385 units built, compared to the Series 3's 165. It proved customers wanted more refinement and power. At the budget end, TVR tried the Vixen 1300 with a 63 brake horsepower Triumph Spitfire engine. With a top speed barely reaching 90 miles per hour, or 145 kilometers per hour, only 15 were built. The market spoke clearly. The Vixen formula worked, but only with adequate power. So why is the Vixen forgotten? First, TVR's own later success buried it. When the company introduced thundering V8 and V6 cars in the 1980s and 90s, the modest four-cylinder Vixen seemed pedestrian by comparison. Second, TVR never achieved significant United States exposure. American market ignorance meant global obscurity. Third, contemporaries like the MGB had stronger brand recognition and dealer networks, even if the Vixen offered better performance per pound. Most painfully, despite the Vixen generating orders and positive press coverage, TVR recorded losses in 1967. Financial advisors recommended shutting down the company entirely. The car was succeeding, but the business was struggling. This pattern haunted TVR throughout the Vixen's 1967 to 1973 production run. Out of 1,029 total Vixens built across all variants, most survive today thanks to dedicated owners and rust-proof fiberglass construction. They prove the car's merit. Lighter than the MGB, more distinctive than the Triumph, more affordable than the Lotus, the TVR Vixen deserved recognition as a clever, enjoyable British sports car. Instead, it lives in the shadow of both TVR's later models and its more famous contemporaries. Imagine finishing a car just 5 days before the 24 hours of Le Mans race, driving it to France barely tested, and winning your class against Lotus, Maserati, Ferrari, and AC. That's exactly what the Peerless GT did in 1958. The car averaged 84 miles per hour for 24 straight hours and hit 120 miles per hour down the Mulsanne Straight, powered by a 2-liter Triumph TR 3.4 cylinder engine producing just 100 brake horsepower. Drivers Jop and Crab brought it home 16th overall and first in class. It was a David versus Goliath moment that should have launched the Peerless into sports car legend. Instead, just 325 cars were built. Before the company collapsed into receivership in March 1960, the Peerless GT was created by 3 motorsport enthusiasts in Slough, Berkshire, John Gordon, a Rolls-Royce vendor and amateur racer, teamed up with club racer James Burns and Bernie Roger, a local legend in engine building. Roger designed a tubular steel chassis using Triumph TR3 running gear, creating a frame that weighed just 123 pounds, yet offered exceptional rigidity. The British Resin Products Company, located near Slough, offered to build the body in fiberglass. The combination of proven Triumph mechanicals with innovative lightweight construction created something special. Road and Track magazine observed that this small company had scooped the automotive industries of the entire world with a real Gran Turismo four-seater that the average enthusiast could afford to buy. That was the Peerless's genius. It actually seated 4 adults, not the nominal 2+2 configuration other sports cars claimed. Very low bodywork with a sultry fastback design concealed a genuinely practical interior. You got weather protection from the fixed roof, luggage space for touring, and sports car performance at 1,450 pounds, including taxes. Performance exceeded the Triumph TR3 it borrowed from, despite being heavier. The more aerodynamic coupe body helped the Peerless reach over 110 miles per hour, or 177 kilometers per hour, compared to the TR3's 105.3 miles per hour. The Motor Magazine's 1961 test recorded 0 to 60 miles per hour in 12.6 seconds, with better high-speed acceleration than the TR3. The sophisticated de Dion rear suspension, unusual for the era, provided better handling than competitors using live rear axles. Production split into 2 phases. Phase 1 cars, numbering around 275 units, suffered from a labor-intensive construction process requiring 60 individual fiberglass body seams to be bonded and riveted. Fit and finish suffered. Overall quality couldn't match similarly priced competitors. Phase 2 addressed these issues with revolutionary one-piece molding that eliminated most seams, improved rigidity, and reduced weight. Only 50 Phase 2 cars were built before receivership hit. The failure came from multiple directions. The small factory aimed for 5 cars per week but fell hopelessly behind schedule. Hand building was too labor-intensive. Margins were too thin to sustain the business. Then internal politics erupted. A row over appointing a new director led to founder John Gordon and another director resigning. Management instability undermined confidence, just as the Le Mans victory should have been building momentum. Here's the bitter irony. The Le Mans success actually accelerated the company's collapse. The racing victory and press coverage generated orders the tiny factory couldn't fulfill. Customer frustration grew. Production bottlenecks became crisis points. Success exposed the company's fundamental weakness. It couldn't scale. Bernie Roger refused to let the dream die. After Peerless collapsed, he resurrected the company as Bernard Roger Developments Limited, marketing essentially the same car as the Warwick from Colnbrook, Buckinghamshire. About 40 Warwicks were built between 1960 and 1962, proving the design was sound even if the business model was flawed. Roger's persistence honored what the Peerless represented: British engineering ingenuity creating genuine performance from modest means. The Peerless GT deserved better because it achieved what larger manufacturers couldn't. A Le Mans class win from a tiny Slough factory was remarkable. Practical 4-seat packaging in a genuinely attractive body solved a real problem decades before practical sports cars became mainstream. The 123-pound tubular chassis was an engineering triumph. With better business management, the Peerless could have become the British Porsche. Instead, it's a footnote, remembered mainly for that one glorious day at Le Mans when it proved the doubters wrong. Wales has given the world male voice choirs, rugby legends, and spectacular mountains. What it hasn't given the world is a famous car manufacturer. Yet from 1959 to 1967, a butcher and a German engineer built sports cars in a small Welsh town that were described as baby Aston Martins. The Gilburn GT, one of the only cars ever designed and built entirely in Wales, deserved to become a source of national pride. Instead, it remains so obscure that Welsh owners displaying the Dragon badge get asked why they put a Welsh flag on their car. Giles Smith was a butcher in Church Village near Pontypridd. Bernard Fries was a German engineer with expertise in glass fiber moldings. Their partnership, combining Smith's business drive with Fries's technical knowledge, created Gilburn, the name merging the first 3 letters of Giles with the first 4 letters of Bernard. The first car was built in 1959 in a shed behind the butcher shop. It was the epitome of British garage entrepreneurship, a hobby project that became a commercial enterprise. By 1961, they had bought larger premises in Llantwit Fardra and increased production from 1 car per month to eventually 1 car per week. The GT was a proper 2+2 coupe with elegant lines clothing a tubular steel ladder frame. The fiberglass body shell was mainly molded in one piece for better panel gaps, with doors and bonnet hinged on chassis members rather than the body itself. This clever engineering overcame one of fiberglass construction's typical difficulties and resulted in fit and finish superior to many competitors. Power came from various BMC engines throughout production. Early cars used the 948 cubic centimeter Austin A35 engine, some fitted with Shorrock superchargers for extra performance. Mid-period cars received 1,500 or 1,600 cubic centimeter MGA engines, the most popular variant accounting for 175 of approximately 202 total GT 1800s built, according to the Gilburn Owners Club, used the 1,798 cubic centimeter MGB engine, producing 96 brake horsepower. The Motor Magazine's 1961 test of a 1,600 cubic centimeter car recorded a top speed of 94.3 miles per hour, or 151.8 kilometers per hour, with 0 to 60 miles per hour in 13.8 seconds. The 1800 GT improved that 0 to 60 time to just 9.7 seconds, making it genuinely quick. Components came from BMC throughout: MGB front suspension, BMC rear axle with coil springs, BMC rack and pinion steering. This strategy provided parts availability and kept development costs down, until it didn't. Gilburn's fatal flaw was being too small to negotiate proper supply contracts with BMC. The company was forced to buy engines over the counter at nearby BMC dealers at retail prices instead of manufacturer pricing. Profit margins evaporated. Production delays occurred whenever parts were unavailable. GT production finally ceased in 1966 due to BMC parts supply problems. The company struggled financially throughout its existence. Giles and Bernard kept it ticking over, but never made huge sums of money. They couldn't invest in marketing, expansion, or financial reserves. In April 1968, searching for cash injection, they sold Gilburn to Ace Capital Holdings Limited, whose main business was manufacturing slot machines for gambling. The automotive experience was questionable. The founders had lost control. Then came the tragedy that almost happened but didn't. In the late 1960s, Prince Charles took delivery of a Gilbern Genie, the GT's successor. Had the Prince of Wales stuck with his proudly Welsh car, royal endorsement could have transformed everything. Gilbern might be spoken of today in the same breath as Jaguar, but Prince Charles was persuaded to swap the Gilbern for an MG sports car after just 6 weeks. The British establishment favored English brands over the Welsh upstart. The opportunity vanished. Out of approximately 202 GT 1800s originally made, around 130 are believed to still survive. This astonishing survival rate, nearly 6 decades later, proves the engineering quality and build durability. Fiberglass construction eliminated rust, the main killer of period cars. The high-quality body shell, practical 2+2 layout, and reliable BMC components created something genuinely good. Owners loved them then and preserve them now. The Gilburn GT deserved better because it represented genuine Welsh achievement against long odds. A butcher and an engineer with no automotive industry background created a car praised as a baby Aston Martin. It proved Wales could design and build quality sports cars. It showed small manufacturers could compete on merit, yet it remains largely forgotten even in Wales. Museum Wales now recognizes Gilburn's significance, acknowledging it was too good to be a one-off. But the broader recognition never came. The royal endorsement was lost. The part supply crisis killed production. The financial resources weren't there to survive the 1970s economic storms. Wales's sports car, elegant and capable, faded into obscurity when it should have become an icon of national pride and manufacturing capability.